PowerPoint that I worked on so well. But you are learning your first lesson in virtual office. This is your first lesson in virtual office. Everything does not work the way that you think it's going to work in having a virtual office. Sometimes we have issues with technology, but hey, that's what happens. So let's talk a little bit about having a virtual office. I have had a virtual office since probably around 2014. I can't remember. I don't want to put it out there, but I am Genara Morris. I am a 2005 graduate of Southern University Law Center. I work alongside my husband, who is also an attorney. We are Mississippi attorneys, and we have not mastered Louisiana yet, or tried to master Louisiana. We love Mississippi, so that's where we are at this point. But we started our virtual office probably around 2014 when we moved back to Louisiana. We felt like there were more opportunities here, as well as my father-in-law. He does the northern part of Mississippi and we do the southern part. So that's why we started our virtual office. So I'm going to try one more time to see if I can get this information to pull up for me. I'm going to try to open this one more time because I don't want y'all to miss out on this PowerPoint. It's very beautiful. If I must say so myself, and here we are. See, we might be delayed, but not denied. I did. Look, and I'm gonna keep taking from him. Jesse might have taken it from me though. All right, lessons learned. Yes, lessons learned in virtual law offices. Like I said, you just learned your first virtual law office lesson a few minutes ago. You can use this technology. I work from my phone, as well as I work from a laptop, computer, whatever it is. And sometimes they don't do what we want them to do, and that's okay. All right. So I'm not going to keep you long because guess what? It's not a very long presentation. Of course, we have our physical office and we have our virtual office as well. So this physical office, this is the traditional law office that we know. However, the virtual office has come around because, of course, we're in a pandemic. And so it has actually gained more traction, the virtual office, but there's a misconception about the physical office as well, and the virtual law office, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. What is a virtual practice of law? The ABA describes it as a technologically enabled law practice beyond the traditional brick and mortar law firm. Okay, so it deals a lot with technology. And then when we deal with technology, what do we get? What happens with technology? Just what happened with me. I sent the link didn't work. I had to resend the link. They were trying to log into my information. Certain things happen. So can we call and talk to anybody? No. So this is one of the issues that the ABA has. They actually have rules that are set aside dealing with the virtual practice of law. So now we know the definition. So we move on to the truth about virtual practice, which I call VP. VP has been long in existence. We all do virtual practice. Even if we have a brick and mortar office, we all do virtual practice, meaning that we accept documents from our clients when they sign up. We store information on our computers, on our phones as well. A lot of these things we already do with virtual practice. Some of us also work from home as well. We might have a brick and mortar, but we do a lot of our work from home also. I'm going to look at the, okay. Errors, sometimes it's just human. Yeah, it was me. I'm human error. So I'm human error. I've become more tech savvy in virtual practice than ever. Just like I kind of what I call finagled this information. That's what I did. So you'll learn. Well, coronavirus has really affected law offices. And so what's happening now is with coronavirus, more individuals are becoming virtual. More law offices are becoming virtual. So coronavirus has made a percentage of these law offices. Now it was actually 15%. It was actually 17% that were actually virtual, and they were solely sole practitioners. You can look that information up as well. I have references that are included in my PowerPoint also that you can look up this information. But 17% of law offices were actually virtual prior to coronavirus. Around 2014, they did this study, and those individuals, solo practitioners being the most, and then we had firms that had 8 to 9 individuals. They were virtual as well. And larger law firms from 100 to 250 employees as well. They were also partially virtual. And so we're also going to talk about the difference between a virtual office and remote working as well, because those two things are completely different. All right, so remote work is a hybrid workforce. It is the future of the work, with both remote and on-site part of the same solution to optimize employers' workforce needs. This is an agency that they made this statement. They do a lot of analyzing different organizations and how those organizations work. And so this was their take on their last study. And as I said, I have those references available for you as well. But a hybrid workforce is the future. And you'll see more individuals working remote, on-site. I work on-site and off-site as well. I also teach at the law center, so I do a lot of virtual classes. And those virtual classes can, be a little hard on you, as well as virtual practice as well. The lasting impact of remote work is resulting in the reassessment of the IT infrastructure. So IT has had a blast with virtual offices. We need them more than ever now. Just like we had to call the IT department here, IT is getting all types of calls because of this remote work and virtual work as well. So the difference between remote work is that you still have this brick and mortar that you go to at certain points in time, and then you also can work from home as well. But virtual, there's no brick and mortar. You are solely either working from home or working in another location. Now, I'm going to talk about also with attracting clients and how does that work and what I've learned from it as well. But it says the lasting impact of remote work is resulting in the reassessment of the IT infrastructure that shifts buyer requirements to demand work anywhere capabilities. Through 2024, organizations will be forced to bring forward digital business transformation plans by at least 5 years. Those plans will have to impact a post-COVID-19 world that involves permanently higher adoption of remote work and digital touch points. So we're in this digital age, and we have to kind of ride the wave. And more clients are liking the virtual aspect of it and using the digital age. So what we want to talk about with a virtual office, what are the requirements of a virtual office? First, we want to talk about the ABA rules. We always have to look at the rules of professional conduct when we're as an attorney. We always have to deal with that. So the ABA rule says the duty of competence Also requires lawyers to stay abreast of the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. What's the risk of technology? What do we think? Scammers, people stealing information. If you do not have a secure network, this is one of the lessons that I learned as well. I did not have any scammers or anyone trying to get information, but I did learn that we have to have certain antivirus website, what do you call it? Antivirus, say that? Spyware. But we have to have that on our computers. We have to have that I use the cloud as well to store my clients' information. And it all has to be, this technology has to be safe for us to use as well. So the ABA requires that. Secondly, lawyers practicing virtually also must ensure they pursue matters on behalf of clients diligently, there's that word, and without unnecessary delay. What happens when we're virtual? What happens? Yeah, I had to learn that lesson too. You can't be lazy. You can't sit aside and just let things happen and think that you don't have to set a calendar, especially when you don't have someone that's over you telling you, hey, you need to do this. You have to be diligent and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing at the time for your client. That's something we know anyway, but it is harder in a virtual setting, especially if you're working from home and it's remote. We have we'll talk about that as well, this serious issue of separating life, family, and job. I've gone through an episode of like my kids would come and they would slide notes under the door in our office. And I'm like, oh gosh, I might need to go talk to my kids because I'm just standing here. And then when I started hiring my children to work, that was another thing. They were doing files and making files for me and filing for me as well, trying to get them involved so I could do more work. And that we're going to talk about that separating from that as well. But that diligence, the competence, and we require what? Communication. Communication. A lot of attorneys have this problem with communicating with clients. You have to communicate with the clients, even in the virtual world. Now, in the virtual world, it's different. They don't have to sit in your face like normal law offices, of course. They don't have to sit in your face. But you do have to have some type of way of communicating with them. Whatever it is, if it's going to be, we got this brilliant Zoom now, everybody wants to use Zoom. And also with Zoom comes the issue we're going to talk about as well, where clients don't have, where we have to set these guidelines for clients and these boundaries with virtual work as well, because they don't know boundaries. When they think, oh, virtual, you're available 24 hours a day. So we're going to talk about that as well. But the ABA says, hey, you have a duty to communicate under Model Rule 1.4, which requires lawyers to reasonably consult with clients and keep them updated about their cases. All right. This is the biggest problem that individuals have that work virtually, keeping those updates. Also, we're going to talk about where virtual workers tend to do more than they should. They say, okay, well, I'm virtual, then I can do this job, I could do this job, I could do this, and I could do this. And sometimes your clients will suffer because of that. But let's talk about this competence, requiring you to stay abreast of technology. How do we stay abreast of technology? Well, first of all, we need to look at law office needs and requirements. Even if you have a virtual office, you still, and if you look at the pictures, these are some of our graduates, y'all. I love to use them in my presentations and that I always get their permission. So if you notice them or know them, I always use them in my presentations because I want them to remember, hey, we remember you and we're looking out for you. And you'll hear that at the end as well, how I talk about that. But you still have the same requirements in a virtual office that you would in a brick and mortar. That is office equipment, supplies. Okay, you still have to have that. That's still an expense. And we'll talk about as well as your expenses and taxes and how filing is the same. It's basically the same, except you might get a little bit more deductions depending on where you work from virtually. So there are benefits, there are pros and cons to it. You also have to have staff. Now, most virtual individuals that work virtual, they are the staff. They're the secretary, they're the paralegal, they're the law clerk, they're all of these things. But if you do have staff, there again is this competence, diligence, and communication. You cannot rely on your staff, and this is what I've learned. You can't rely on your staff to always make the decision or to get things done. And we know that we are responsible for any staff members that do anything that they're not supposed to do. We are responsible as attorneys. So these are the similarities. Research resources. We also have to research as well. We still have to do that. Office systems and management. We still have to manage the virtual office. We have to have some type of office systems in place. And I have resources here for you. You look at the attorney ethics rules, Westlaw, LexisNexis, those are still expenses for us. But CLEO has really changed the game for virtual offices. I mean, this thing is wonderful. This website is, and I'm not promoting CLEO or Case Manager or LawPay. I'm not promoting any. If I do, y'all owe me money, CLEO, Case Manager, and LawPay. if anybody buys anything, y'all owe me money. But no, CLEO has really is a in-depth virtual office. This thing is serious. I've taken the little classes and I lose my words sometimes, so y'all pray for me. But CLEO has this session that you can take to learn everything about it. And it's really in depth. It has where your clients can actually log in. They have their own account. They can provide documentation there. You can give them updates. You can bill them. There are many things that you could do with CLEO and Case Manager and LawPay. Of course, we do have an issue with how are we getting paid? How do our clients pay us in a virtual office if they can't walk in? Of course, you don't want the client coming to your home. Do you? No, you do not. So you have to figure out those ways in the office systems and management. How do we talk to these clients? How do we relay information to these clients? How do we get information from these clients? I have met clients in different places, different offices, because if that client says, hey, I want to meet, I want to see you face to face, then if they don't know how to use Zoom, which a lot of clients are not tech savvy either, so we have to worry about that also. And if the client, says, I can't use a credit card to pay you, how, those are questions that come up. And those are lessons that you learn in the process. How do we get what we need to the client as well as get what we need as well? All right, so these are resources for you for office systems and management. If you're thinking about a virtual office or if you already own a virtual office as well. Client management, this is a big deal with virtual offices. We're used to the paper, the real nice file. We use the file system all the time and we have everything. I still use the file system, but I also use the cloud as well. And we also have a site that was built for us. We didn't go with CLEO or anybody like that. That's a whole nother story. But we actually had a web person, a website manager or website designer, whatever you call them. And my husband handled that. But they built our system for us. So our clients can come in. They can provide their information. They can upload documents. If they need to sign something, it goes out to them. They sign it and send it back, but they sign it virtually. They have a signature that goes there. Adobe does that as well. There are a lot of systems that do that, but it locks the actual signature, and they have to verify the signature as well. So those are issues that you come up with. Clio Case Manager, they handle that, but our system was designed solely for us. So we appreciate it and use it all the time. But that client management, in dealing with the client in communication, in dealing with the client in technology, dealing with the information that they send to you. We have social security numbers. We have health information that comes out of that. We have addresses. We have credit scores, all of those things that we have access to as attorneys. We have to make sure that it's managed correctly and properly. Malpractice insurance, we have to still have that in a virtual office. You're not exempt because you got a virtual office. And I forgot the IOTA account. We still have to have that as well. So those things are still required with a virtual office, but use these resources if you're thinking about a virtual office, because they help, they make it a lot easier on you in being able to organize everything that that you may have. No, you don't want your client know where you live, yet alone your cell phone. Yes, amen. How to reach clients in your virtual law office, okay? Well, we could do marketing, because how do you know I'm there if I don't have a brick and mortar? Some people can pass by and see your brick and mortar. That's free advertisement. So virtual law office, you have to be a little bit more, you have to use your wise, you have to be wise and be savvy in marketing. Now, marketing now is what? Social media. That's the best free marketing in the world. If you're not on social media as a virtual lawyer, there's a problem, because that's the best way to, Twitter is good, Instagram is good, Facebook is good. All of those things, your virtual office needs to be connected in sending out information. Sometimes you could just put Esquire behind your name and people will call you, okay? So in a virtual law office, you have to be a little bit more creative. That was the word I was looking for. Because that brick and mortar, you can have parties there. You can have people come into the brick and mortar, and it's going to pass word of mouth. But when you have a virtual law office, you have to sell these clients on being a virtual client sometimes. But as we transition, and COVID kind of pushed us into this, clients don't want to see you anymore. They don't want to come to your office. You have Zoom, you have Google Meet, whatever it is, Meets. Do you have all of those things? And, hey, we say, look, yeah, we have it, and we can meet you and get information from you as well. Ring Central, that's another one that has come up that a lot of virtual law offices use for fax needs, for phone needs as well. You have to have that phone, and you also have to have access to Zoom. The biggest thing that I've learned in having a virtual office is that you must be tech savvy. You have to be tech savvy. You must be tech savvy. There's no way around it in a virtual law office at all. All right. So how to reach those clients? Social media, as I said, is a good one. Marketing, having some type of marketing plan as well for your virtual law office to sell people on the fact that, well, now you don't really have to do it because it's, COVID has, like I said, has driven us there. But having that marketing plan and reaching those clients. All right. So with the virtual law office, and I'm going to get to this in a few minutes, but with the virtual law office, as I said, a lot of times what happens is we don't manage our time. We don't manage our time. We continuously work. You'll see me sometimes in the car, and this is what I'm doing. I'm texting a client, or I'm looking up a all types of stuff. Now the court systems have kind of made it easier for us as virtual lawyers as well, because we have electronic. Everybody agree that electronic filing is the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread. Like, I love electronic filing. I love it because you don't have this race to the courthouse anymore. It's a race to your computer to either have it fax filed or either have it filed before 11:59 at night. So beautiful thing. I am an advocate for electronic case filing, whatever y'all call it. We call it, we have Mississippi electronic courts. So not all of our courts have gone with it, but they will eventually end up being virtual as well. But the best thing since sliced bread, I love it. I talk to people all the time about self-care and dealing with self-care and how you can prevent burnout. Now, the virtual office, as I said, it's like you're going. In a brick and mortar, you walk out and you can disconnect. But when you work from home or you work from somewhere, if it's just if it's just an office within your home or an office behind your home or somewhere you're renting, whatever it is, it's hard to disconnect from that because your office has become your home has become your office as well. So with this, we have to set these guidelines for ourselves and rules for ourselves. This is my point, my stopping point, where I will not do any more work. This is what we have to say. We also have to tell it to our clients as well. I'm virtual, but I am not 24/7 open 24/7. Who's gotten the calls at 2:00 in the morning? Who's gotten the calls at 12 midnight? Or your office phone is ringing in your virtual office, literally at 2 a.m. they ring. And God forbid you give them a cell phone number. I answer sometimes though, because I'm like, ooh, that's right. I answer sometimes because I'm like, well, this could be, I don't know, this could be something. Yeah, it always does. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but I always answer. But it happens. And so we have to give ourselves this guideline for stopping and saying, I'm not going to engage. It's not about not having communication or not being diligent. It's just saying, this is my time. This is my self-care need. So with the virtual office, how do we do that? We set a calendar. We say, this is what's going to happen, and organize that calendar and say, we're not going to move from that. I always tell my students, look, begin when you're having one thing I learned in virtual office, you eat because you're at home or you're in a place where there's access to everything. So we have to eat good stuff. We have to practice mindfulness, meditation, and relaxation techniques, because with virtual offices, it's 24/7. It's like you don't even take a lunch break sometimes. Sometimes you don't do that in your office either, but there's a disconnect in that brick and mortar. You don't ever really disconnect in the virtual office. Now that's what I've learned. Standing up and exercising, even in your brick and mortar office, you have to do that as well. And organize and manage time. How do we de-escalate conflicts with the virtual client as well? These are just points that I make within the virtual office. And then pursue our curiosity, joy, and passion, utilize social supports, and seek professional help if we feel overwhelmed. And then how can we prevent burnout? Here go the boundaries. We set those clear boundaries. But setting a boundary is one thing. We have to maintain it and actually do and set the boundary. Say no to reasonable requests, assertiveness. Be assertive in your saying no, and avoid multitasking. I always lose it. I'm actually writing something at one point, and then I go say, well, wait, I forgot this. So creating a checklist for ourselves is really important in the virtual office, because we can get distracted a lot. And you also need to set a calendar for anyone that may be working for you. If you have a virtual assistant, you need to also set calendars, parameters, also give them different tasks they are to do, because otherwise they will bother you all day. Your phone will be ringing all day. Well, did you want me to do this? 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 Because you're not in person. You're not sitting there. So that could also be an issue. And then maintain community. True self-care is not an excuse to escape from our lives, but rather a means to create a life we don't feel the need to escape from in the first place. All right, so let me see. E-filing doesn't bear the cost and time delays as fax filing. That is so true. So I'm going to ask if you have any questions about the virtual office. That's the first thing. But remember to pay it forward. If you know a young attorney that has come out, I always say this in all my presentations. If you know a young attorney, give them knowledge, help them out. I love to mentor a lot of our graduates. I love when they call because I didn't have that. I didn't have it when I got out. People were like, get it on your own. I had to get it on my own. So they could use our help. The younger generation could use our help. So definitely pay it forward. And I thank you. Success is not failure. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. I'm going to take questions and answers. Questions and give you answers at this point. Does anybody have any questions about the virtual office? Yes. Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's asking a question about virtual offices. I want everybody on Zoom to understand what we're doing too, about virtual offices and how do you deal with court systems that really don't want to recognize e-signatures as well as e-filing, or as well as doing some type of virtual meeting for your clients as well. I've run into that problem and we had to work around it. In your specific case, I don't necessarily, and I don't know what parish it is either, but I'm in Mississippi, so you could imagine what I go through on a daily basis. So, okay. So yeah, it depends. I mean, if you can, if opposing counsel agrees, or if the judge will be lenient. I had a judge that was not lenient at all, and we ended up in the courtroom from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and turned out opposing counsel, with some issues. We ended up having some issues after that, but they wanted to meet in person. And I mean, we were in the middle of COVID and they wanted to meet in person, and they did. So you know how the law goes. Like I tell my law students, it just depends. And in that specific situation is handling virtual. The only thing that I would do is probably FedEx him the papers when he was there, have them waiting on him for him to sign. And it can be costly. I'm glad you brought that up too. In a brick and mortar, people can walk into your office and their schedule is fine. Because they can walk into your office, you can work around their schedule. But when you're in a virtual office, either you're going to have to set a schedule to meet with that person, or you're going to have to pay money to get what you need over there to the person as well. So it can be a little bit costlier than, but you save in the fact that, one, we don't have overhead. If you working from your house, you paying your own light bill. You got to keep the lights on in your house. So you don't have that overhead that brick and mortars have. But in that one, that, yeah, it's on a case by case basis on that one. Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah. Yeah. Zoom is an all day thing. Zoom being an all day thing, yes, it is. And I just said that. I said Zoom has made people think that there is no time at all. Like time does not exist. You'll have a Zoom meeting, a Zoom hearing, a Zoom consultation, and you'll just be on Zoom all day. You know, within the last couple of years, you know, my eyes have just they're shot. They're just shot. We're taking questions. Anybody have any questions about virtual offices and lessons that I've learned for virtual office? Anybody? Anybody else? Yes. 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 Most definitely. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. It's easier. It's easier, you know. Yeah, you can have on a suit coat and, you know, your golf pants, which we've seen at the same time. There was a comment that post Katrina there was a difference in one of our the individuals in the gallery is saying that the there was a difference in how she backed up her information. I want to make sure that Zoom, you know, everybody that's on Zoom that's virtual, here's what we're saying. So yeah, I learned a lesson too because I lost I lost some stuff. Yeah, I lost some stuff. And then what happens when your computer has too much information as well? How do we back that up? You know, and we're not using the regular disk that we used to use anymore. No, I'm talking about the little CDs. You know how yeah, my kids look at that like I'm crazy. Like, what are you doing with that? So we have to use the cloud a lot of times so we could back up this information. When I say cloud, it's a storage space, and we could buy storage space there to store all of this information. So yes, I totally agree with you. And we're also required by the rules of professional responsibility that we have to have that as well. So that's what they talk about being, the ABA is talking about being competent and being tech savvy as well. We have to figure that out. But yeah, things changed for me during the flood. Now that's when they really changed. And, you know, I was like, I'm not meeting anybody else. And then when COVID hit, definitely. Now the court systems, they have now said it's easier for us to meet. You know, another thing is safer. It's safer because you never know what you're getting with a client. You never know, especially if you do criminal. Especially if you do criminal, then you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what they're going to do. So those things, the court has said, hey, this is a lot safer. I always tell the story of one of the attorneys. They were doing a deposition in his office, attorney in Mississippi, They were doing a deposition in his office. He goes to asking questions. He ended up acting as his own attorney against a guy that had done some work on his home, and he was suing the guy to get his money back. Well, at the end of the deposition, Bill Luckett, I don't know if y'all know Bill Luckett, who's a big attorney in Mississippi, just passed as well, but is really good friends with Morgan Freeman. He stands up to leave. This is his client. His client shoots the other attorney in the head. Yes, and walks out of the office. Yes. So, I don't think he cared. I don't think he really cared. He had served time in prison before. Y'all can read on it. Attorney Redmond. His not was it Redmond? Yeah, it's Redmond. But yeah, those are one of the things. I mean, and we talk about safety in the courtrooms. Virtual does make it a lot safer for you because you don't know who you're meeting or what's going to come into your office, what's going to happen. So it does make it a lot easier and a lot safer for you because you kind of vet that client as well. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Place to the other. Yeah, more efficient, more effective. And I know the court dockets are just happy. I mean, they have to be excited about their docket not being as long. You don't have to wait on attorneys that are late, clients that don't show up or whatever it is. So it does, and being virtual also gives you this laid back effect as well. Because you're like, oh, okay, I got time, and you really don't. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it makes it more efficient, effective, and we're seeing a new way of the court system actually becoming tech savvy. So this is going to end my time if no one else has any other questions or concerns. I apologize for the tech problems that we had in the beginning, and I appreciate y'all for being here with us. And thank you, Southern University Law Center. You're welcome. The cell phone? Oh, the phone. Thank you, Mr. Hamer. Thank y'all for being with us. I appreciate it. Miss Mason, what do I need to do? End it. Thank you. Have a good day.